Hi there, everybody. Eddie Kernan with Rexylab here at Kahler International with Gary Kahler. The reason we're here today is because Kahler is reintroducing some of their fulcrum vibrato systems, and all of them have at least a slight upgrade, and in some cases, a complete redesign. So, Gary, let's talk about the three base models you have right
Sure.
here. So the Spyder, that is, I think, really important to point out that this is very different from what we know as a traditional fulcrum, whereas these two versions of the Steeler are very comparable to what most people would think of.
The traditional is comparable.
Very.
The Pro is not. This one you cut the balls off on both of these.
Yes.
And this one, you simply thread it in the back and keep the balls on for a good reason of sound.
All three of these have different options, and we're going to go through them starting with the Spyder. So the first tier would be the Spyder, right?
Right.
And what this is
the most inexpensive of the line.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Fender had many. We made about 40,000 of these, and that was a few years back. But we've changed a few things. We put a full fine tuner knob on, what people wanted, rather than a smaller one.
This is pretty cool, actually. This is a raw Spyder base plate, and it's got a built-in block, and that is the size of the old tuners. And when you compare it to the size of the new ones, it's not like a colossal difference, but it's enough to where you're really going to notice, and it's going to give you a lot of extra grip.
Well, I'd like to point out, though, that this is a very inexpensive tuner to make because it's got a flat top, it has no dome, and doesn't require any kind of polishing. This one here is a quite expensive tuner to make because it has a dome on it, different kind of knurl, and a better thread. So the difference between that tuner and this tuner is about 3 times in cost.
You still have a lot of these, so you could have just used them.
I have over 2,000 of them in stock, yeah.
Yeah, so you could have saved a lot of money, but instead you did this upgrade.
Yep.
Oh, and not only that, but the plating matches. And on the old ones, was this black oxide?
Yeah, that's all black oxide.
Yeah, so that's quite a step up already. Here's a better close-up look of these small fine tuners as compared to the new ones on this old Spyder block that has single lock and killer saddles in it. This is just an interesting thing because this was designed to, in fact, be interchangeable with some parts of the Killer.
That's it.
Which is still out of production. The Killer's out of production, probably will not come back into production.
Well, it can't come back. It costs too much to make, and nobody wants to pay the price that it would take. It'd be about a $700 bridge. And I understand that, so that we make it. But the Spyder is in a price point that people are constantly asking us, why don't you sell the Spyder anymore? Well, I finally brought it back because of, frankly, a popular demand. And we've got it in 3 different colors. We also have it as a standard Spyder and also with an auto-latch. I'll let you explain that.
The auto-latch is the best solution that I've seen for people who want to be able to block their bridge or immobilize it. It's a really elegant design that's fairly complicated. It was a fairly complicated thing to create, but it was complicated to create so that it would be easy for the end user. What the auto-latch does is it effectively turns your floating whammy bar into a fixed bridge with a flick of the bar. That's all it takes. The key is that flat spot in the bar itself. This is a non-auto-latch Kahler bar. This one right here has a flat spot that rotates, and an easy way for you to watch it in action is to watch those little white pieces right there. This is engaged to where it is a fixed bridge, but if I move it, those white pieces go away. So that is a quick, easy, fast way to watch it move. But here is where we're actually doing what it needs to be done. That is open wide enough to where the other part of the auto latch can just move freely. But when we do that, that just slight movement of this piece right here locks the bridge fixed. Yeah, you want to help me out with that, Gary?
All right.
You just stick that in right there like that.
Yeah, I can't see it good, but okay. And you can
Okay.
see that that'll lock right into that piece.
Yeah, that's not moving. And when this is secured to the spring cavity, then it's just in there solid. It works great.
And this piece can be adjusted as to how far you have to put this center out, and therefore you set your intonation and everything. Put the bar where you want it to be, and this lever locks exactly where that is after you've tuned it up.
Not only that, but there are fine adjustments all over here. There's one, I believe it's right here, to where that moves the arm back and forth to where if it needs to go a little bit to the right or to the left, you can do that in very fine increments.
That's particularly important if you break a string while you're playing.
If you break a string and everything goes out of tune, you just flip it into lock and you bump it back with your hand or pull the bar back up or however to get it back into the lock position. And then you're back in tune well enough to finish the song and then swap the guitar out when it's time to start the next one. So basically what we have is each color either just standard or auto latch ready, and that will also include the other piece of the auto latch and the special bar. And of course, the auto latch version is going to cost a little bit more. There is something that I think is really important to point out about the Spyder. A couple things actually. The first one is that if you're trying to replace a traditional fulcrum thing, which of course, you know, I'm referring to a Floyd Rose, this footprint is different. The drive spacing is the same, but the footprint is different. So you could do dive only, but if you're trying to put it into something that's routed for a Rose, it's not going to fit without a little modification. Another thing is that it's got a different feel to it. And the different feel is because the knife edge is actually on the stud. And there are advantages to this. A big one is that if you ever wear out part of the knife edge on the stud, you just turn it like quarter turn and you've got a whole new edge. But I mean, honestly, Gary, have you ever had anybody have that problem on a Spyder?
It happens on regular fulcrums with only one knife. Just remember that if you're dealing with a solid plate, you only got one knife you're dealing with.
That is true.
One surface. You've got four surfaces here.
Yes.
And it's important that you understand that there's a slot here that goes into. And that special slotted piece fits right in there. And that is also replaceable.
Yes.
And it is held in place by that little screw right there. So you can replace the whole drive. And we've sold a lot of these pieces. We've also sold new bolts that they actually used all four sides over a period of 25 years. And they loved them because all you had to do is buy a new bolt for another 25 years.
Because it does have this different way. It's a little bit stiffer. If you're used to a Floyd Rose, it's a little stiffer, but I actually think that that's good for some people. Some people, they're heavy-handed and, you know, they need something that's stiffer, and this is it. This is something that I think is very important to point out to anybody who has a Spyder or who's thinking about getting one. This screw absolutely must be sitting inside here, and the most common mistake I see people make with these is to rest it like that. That right there is incorrect. It won't move. That screw needs to be sitting
in the slot.
In the slot. It's very easy to illustrate. There's the slot. It needs to sit in the slot. Then it can move with the greatest ease. Another thing to point out is that this is a stepped plate. Many people have done stepped plates, and the advantage to that is that all of these saddles are the same size. You don't have to make sure that you have saddle 1 where saddle 1 goes, saddle 2 where saddle 2 goes, saddle 3 where saddle 3 goes. But let's talk about the clutch. You can have this thing to where it just flops like that if that's the kind of action you like with your bar. Or with the 3/32, you can just go in right here, tighten it up, and now you have to make it go where it's going to go. I think we pretty well covered it, right?
Well, there's one more feature. You can use a quarter here.
Oh, that's right. If you lose your Allen wrench, and these are SAE, they're not metric. If you lose your Allen wrench, there's a slot right here designed to use a quarter to tighten, loosen, and it's a handy thing to have because you always got a quarter.
I think also that we should point out that these are barrel screws. A lot more meat on these instead of just the regular thin screw. Okay, and these are very special. They were made special for screw machine shop, special for the Spyder.
Let's move on to the Steeler Traditional.